This video will change the way you watch football. Through a collection of tips and tricks, we're going to teach you how to be a smarter fan. From the broadest picture down to the smallest details, let's discuss how to look at the game with greater depth, starting with as wide a lens as possible. The chess game of football comes down to three things: numbers, angles, and players. On any given down, these three factors will ultimately resolve the play. Starting with numbers, can you gain an advantage somewhere on the field? Can you put more blockers at the point of attack than they have defenders? Can you create a numbers advantage to cover their receivers? Or can you send more rushers than the offense can block up? Numbers are at the heart of every design all across football, offense, defense, or special teams. At the NFL level, players are disciplined in their roles, and coaches strong at preparing their teams. So you see fewer numbers wins than you do at lower levels. But when you do, it's a big play. When a numbers advantage can't be created, coaches turn to the second factor, angles. By using different formations, blocking concepts, blitz paths, or defensive alignments, teams create advantageous angles to attack their opponents. This is where creative coaches shine, bringing new twists on old designs to win the angles war. However, there's nothing new in football, and with a full-time staff paid millions of dollars to find solutions, numbers and angles play a smaller part in the NFL than many may think, although it's not insignificant. And this leaves us with the last factor, players. For as much as this is an X's and O's channel, it's the Jimmies and Joes that win you games. This doesn't negate coaching though. Getting your best player on their weakest link is how to create the biggest advantage. This is why you'll often hear the NFL referred to as a matchup league. With numbers and angles taken away, the one true way to still get an advantage is to win the talent battle. Focusing on the football is where every fan starts. But if you really want to learn the game at a deeper level, you need to learn to take your eye off the ball. The majority of the game happens away from the football. If your eyes are only glued to it, most of the game will pass you by. With so many components to the game, it can be a lot to take in. So one way to learn is to focus on a position for a portion of the game and only watch that battle. The best place to truly start is in the trenches. The battle between O-line and D-line is really the core of the game. If the offensive line can't protect, there's no way to carry out any design and the play will quickly be over. Focusing here will also allow you to see the play develop quicker. If everyone's lids stay down and the line crashes forward, that's almost certainly a run. However, taking your eye off the ball isn't always the easiest task on Sunday. And that comes to our third point. The broadcast angle lies to you. The zoomed in shot used to film games hides much of what the game of football is actually about. Luckily, football's pace of play allows for many a replay, and this is really where the NFL comes into its own with excellent broadcasting. However, if you want to see the true chess match, you're going to need to view the all 22 cameras like we do in our videos. The all 22 angles are available via a subscription to NFL Pro. Now, this video isn't sponsored by them, but we get so many questions about it in our comments, we figured it was worth mentioning. As we zoom out, the game becomes more like a chessboard, and that's how coaches treat it, with the field divided into sections, played differently depending on where the line of scrimmage lies. From an offensive perspective, the 0 to 20 yard line is the backed up zone. Yards are needed to kickstart a drive, as well as create space if the team is forced to punt. Gaining any sort of progress here is seen as a plus. Between the 20 and 50 is usually seen as neutral territory. Teams want to get the ball rolling and are usually running their base offense. As we cross the midfield line, we start to get into plus territory, and teams often change how they start calling plays. With points in sight, many coaches get more aggressive as they cross the halfway line, trying to chunk the ball into field goal range or take shots for touchdowns. Many offensive coordinators have a tell of taking a shot as soon as they cross that halfway line. As teams get into field goal range, the reverse happens, with coaches often getting more conservative, scared to give away points. It's a weird paradox where 10 or even 5 yards can be the difference between aggressive or safe play calling. Last up is the red zone, which is usually further split up by coaches designing different plays based on the limitations of space. In fact, the red zone has so much nuance, it deserves a section of its own. As space gets constricted, everybody's hand gets forced. The offense has to work from a different pool of plays, with limited space to stretch vertically, allowing defenses to be more aggressive. Although you always need to be aware of the quick fade and the high red. The condensed space means the offense will need to attack quicker, limiting a defense's ability to disguise or rotate. Man-to-man is also far more common, with quick attacks easily breaking the zones, which in turn leads to a higher degree of pick routes. Field position is just one way to view play calling tendencies, with down and distance also playing a role. Most football fans understand teams treat first, second, and third down differently. But did you know teams treat the first play of a possession differently too? Possession intent, as it's called, generally shows a tendency for play callers, either showing aggression with a shot or a conservative play to get the drive going. These can also be affected by how a team got the ball, with many coaches becoming ultra aggressive after a turnover. How a team performs on first down is critical to having an effective offense. And it's not just for staying ahead of the count. You actually get your most first downs on first down. This comes from the freedom an offense has, with the whole playbook generally at their disposal. Offensive coordinators aren't worried about staying on track. Defenses are then forced to be more conservative, having to account for every form of attack, opening up opportunities to the intermediate part of the field. Short yardage situations, however, are always going to arise, but they might not be as common as you think. On average, there are only 2 third or fourth down and 1 situations per offense per game. That sounds like nothing, but it bears true in the data. In 2024, there were 1,112 of these situations in 272 games. Coaching staffs know this fact, and usually only carry 2 or 3 plays for these situations in their game plan. This means if multiple opportunities do arise, you'll often see them go back to the first play they used. This is a great way to look like Romo in front of the homies. Another thing to be wary of is how teams perform in and out of their script. During the week, the coaching staff will draw up what's known as the script, which is the first 15 to 25 plays they're going to run. It's not unusual to see a team come flying out the gates, only to fizzle out after the script. This happens for a variety of reasons. The team had a chance to practice these designs multiple times in the week, along with the advantage of tape study, choosing specific designs to attack their opponent. Most teams script the first 25 plays in the NFL, meaning the script ends somewhere early to middle second quarter. The coaching battle then begins all over again, as both sidelines assess what happened during the script and game plan for the rest of the 60 minutes. It's one thing to be able to analyze film and draw up plays during the week. It's a whole other task to do it straight from the sideline. When it comes to straight play calling tendencies, one of the biggest ones around the league is starting the 2-minute drill with the draw play. The 2-minute drill possesses a unique scenario where you have a chance to score quickly, but a failed drive often hands the same situation to your opponent. With defenses backing up expecting pass, the draw play is a perfect way to get the clock rolling and catch the defense backing up. Be ready for this on Sundays, especially if you're watching a Josh McDaniels team. Generally, the strong safety is going to tell you the coverage the defense is running. Where they align can tell us whether it's man or zone, and the coverage we're likely seeing, sinking post-snap to form cover 3s, or staying high to build the 2 high coverages. QBs are taught to get their eyes here both pre and post-snap, so you should too. This is a very general overview, and of course, NFL teams know how to disguise this, but it's a great first place to look to figure out scheming. How a team aligns and what formation they use can be strong indicators of the play to come. Something very common in the modern game is the use of condensed splits for wide receivers. By bringing your receivers closer to the line, you create shorter distances for crossing routes, opening up new routes and angles to attack. On defense and on your couch at home, you can read this and get a good feel for when plays such as mesh are coming. Teams love to run this in condensed to make the play hit faster. Another play you can spot coming is the play-action bootleg. When the X receiver takes a condensed split, usually known as a nasty alignment, it's a big tell that some form of rollout is coming. However, condensing the formation is a double-edged sword. As you condense the formation, you also squeeze the space for the defense, opening up shorter paths for creative blitzes. This played out in the AFC Championship game last year, where the Bills condensed the formation to set up better angles for mesh, but this allowed Spagnuolo to bring the corner blitz, forcing Josh Allen to just throw one up. Blitzes also have indicators, although these are usually harder to see on the broadcast angle than on tape. From the all-22 view, you can often spot third-level defenders sliding over the top of a receiver, capping them in coverage. This is an indication that the player lined up closest to this receiver is going to blitz, being replaced in coverage by this third-level defender. This is helpful for quarterbacks to spot, as it not only tells them when and where the blitz is coming from, but also that the defense is likely playing man coverage. Another tell you can spot on offense is the H-back option play. If a running back takes 3 horizontal steps after receiving a toss, this is almost certainly a halfback pass play. Runners are taught to get downhill fast on these plays, so any hesitation should have you keying on the option. This is also true for wide receivers who bubble backwards off jet handoffs or motions. They already have depth on the play. The only reason to go backwards is to gain space to pass. Motions are another thing to watch out for. Smart offensive coordinators will have dummy motions early in the game to see how a defense reacts. If they chase the motion, there's a good chance you can set up a jet sweep later on, outrunning the defense with a head start. If they choose to bump the coverage over and have everybody play the next man over, you can use this to create a mismatch on a future play. Motions also provide a tell for the defense though. If a unit is using a significant amount of motion at the snap, then it becomes easier for a defense to guess the snap count. This allows the defensive line to get off faster and also provides opportunities for the blitz. If the offense wants to snap the ball with someone in motion, they aren't going to be able to reset the protection easily. This allows defensive coordinators to send blitzes that attack the line with great timing, keying on the motion for when to trigger downhill. Not all plays are created equal, and not all plays are designed to hit a home run or create a turnover. Often, teams are presenting a look early in the game to set up a play later down the line. This is especially true during the scripting phase we spoke about earlier. The most common way to do this is to present one formation, then come back to it a few plays later and key off the play before. The first play doesn't have to be successful, but it does need to sell the idea hard. This is where efficiency metrics like EPA always fall short. They can't judge how one play sets up another. A good habit to get into when watching football is to count to 3 in your head from the snap. This is the line of demarcation for whether a play should work or not. The O-line is only expected to keep the D-line at bay for 3 seconds, with the QB expected to get the ball out in rhythm. Almost every sack that happens after this point is due to the QB holding the ball too long. If the pressure happens quicker than this, the QB is usually not at fault for the sack. However, the elite of the elite are the ones with the quickest times to throw. Great quarterbacks know where the hole is pre-snap and can beat even the quickest pressures with their arm. If the defensive line can't get pressure for 4 full seconds, there's virtually no chance of keeping modern receivers covered, and a big play is often coming for the offense. It's important when watching football to understand the game is always in a state of evolution. What works one year will be solved the next, and just because the pass dominates one game, the run may take over another. Keeping this viewpoint will help you understand that there's no magic bullet on offense or defense. It's not a case of just pounding the rock or launching bombs. Teams must continually adapt their chess game to remain fresh and counter their opponents. For all the skill, design, and coaching involved in football, fundamentals still remain king. The team that blocks and tackles the best usually wins the game. It's cliche to dissolve the game down to just these 2 moments, but after years of watching tape, it really can be that simple. One great block is often the difference between a 2-yard gain and a touchdown. And I can't tell you the amount of scores that happen because of poor tackling. Even at the NFL level, there's an epidemic of poor shoulder and arm tackles. Be wary of this when trying to evaluate talent coming into the NFL. Those who are contact averse often struggle. Football can be a confusing game up close, but looking at the bigger picture allows trends to appear. Keep these ideas in the back of your mind on Sundays, and you'll be seeing the game at a far greater depth. Let us know your tips and tricks for watching football in the comments below. Take care.